Hey guys, welcome back to my workbench. Dan here. As always, great to have you here. In today's video, we're going to be doing another exciting new product review on a brand new car that's just come to the market. It is the Aurora Miniatures Boxcar here. This is a TTX version. I also have another, I believe I have a UCRY version as well, so I got two TTX and one UCRY to review here. So these are really cool cars. This is an actual accurate version of the 50-foot boxcar, or rather the waffle side boxcar. Exactrail was the first to make a style of this car, but it was technically a Fubi. I don't know how many of you actually knew that. It had some inaccuracies. They got us by for a while, but these are an actual accurate version, so I've actually sold off all my Exactrails to replace them with these guys. Not that I need a whole bunch, but I went ahead and got 3 of them here, and I've went ahead and unboxed them. I've not taken these cars out of the boxes. I've just unpacked them. They came in today, and I'm super excited to go ahead and jump into this review, guys. So let's go ahead and get to the workbench and take a look at these guys. Here's the 3 that I got initially, and I do plan on ordering some more down the road when finances allow. I have the 3 versions, 2 F boxes, both different numbers of course, and a UCRY. All the same model boxcar essentially. These look really nice, so I'm super excited to get these out of the box. I purchased these from Otter Valley Railroad, and so far I've had some great service with them. I purchased all of my gondolas from them, obviously, and I purchased all of my cars so far through Aurora. Now, I do know Lombard Hobbies will be getting these in stock. I have a feeling these will be selling out fast. They're just now becoming available. I think in the last week they officially got stocked. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I believe. I purchased mine right away from OVR as soon as they came in, and I paid $63.99 per car. And then, of course, I also paid more because I had to pay for shipping from Canada. But if you guys wait, a couple of hobby shops I know of, like Lombard, for example, will be getting these in stock. So these should be slightly cheaper here in the U.S. Once they arrive. So you guys can start scouting around for pricing and everything like that. But I'm just telling you guys where I got mine personally. So no problems there. Shipping was actually pretty fast, too, from Canada, about 2 weeks. So not bad. So we're going to be reviewing this guy here, the F-Box 506479. And then we'll also be looking at the 2 other cars, but we'll be kind of passing over these unless there's something wrong with any one of these. But we'll look at this one in detail and look at all the nice detailing and all the features, and also compare all of these with prototype photos. You guys should know by now I love to do live unboxings. I think this is honestly the best way to unbox or show any new product. I don't like to just jump in and, you know, as you guys know, I like to do live unboxings. I don't like to jump ahead and try to get the thing out of the box, because I like to be able to, you know, show from a new company, especially how the car's packed and everything like that. I want to make sure that there's no broken or missing parts, and I want you guys obviously to all see that in event that there's something damaged. As you can see, it's a pretty standard box, nothing crazy there. We got some little bits of information on the back. And then we have their social media, YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. Let's go ahead and unbox it here carefully. There we go. Nothing extravagant there. There's no manuals, no paperwork or anything like that. No exploded parts diagrams. It's simply a model in a clamshell box. And we're going to go ahead and pop this guy open. It's actually very, very tough. I'd say when you guys unbox these, be careful, because those do have a lot of resistance to them. Jeez. But hopefully that keeps the car packed pretty well. It's pretty tight in there, so that's a good sign. I don't see any missing or busted parts so far, at least that I can see. Looks that's a good sign. Let's go ahead and take the plastic cover off and carefully extract the model. And again, nothing damaged, nothing missing. That's good. Okay. Let's go ahead and set that aside. Alright. Wow. Okay, so first impressions here. Wow. They got a lot of really nice weight to them. The detailing looks phenomenal. Look at that piping. These also have the Aurora trucks with the rotating bearings, the scale-sized knuckle couplers. They have the pivoting air hose mechanism. That's something I love to see modeled. That's something you don't see on a lot of modern box cars that are currently modeled and offered. They actually got that part on there, so I'm anxious to take a look at that. So yeah, out of the box, no damage that I can see. No missing parts. Everything looks solid. And these have a little bit of weight to them, so they should track pretty well, but we'll do a layout test later. So it's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and get this set up to do the proper review. So here we have the F-Box 506479 fresh out of the box, and let me tell you, it is a gorgeous car. I'm in awe of all the detailing on the sides. Everything looks fantastic. So let's start at the ends here, and I will show a better shot at the ends, but this is just a rough overall review out of the box here. We got the really nicely done separately applied coupler lift bar, pivoting air hose mechanism. We have see-through etched metal crossover platforms, a realistic separately applied brake wheel and mechanism with realistic chain, all the separately applied ladders. We have separately applied railings with added eye bolts. We have really nice detail on the sides as well. A couple details I want to point out on the sides. I really love the waffle pattern ribbing that they've done here. It has some really nice etched in detail to the sides. Very realistic and prototypical, just like the real ones. I also like the fact that these have a little bit more depth compared to some other offerings in the past, say Athearn and Exact Rail. Those cars lack a little bit more of this depth. This is really nice. I also like the door track here, and unfortunately this door track is a molded piece. This is not a separately applied piece, say for example like an Exact Rail or an Atlas Masterline series rail. This is a molded on piece. However, looking at it, the way they've done this, it's very fine, and it also includes all the realistic underside detailing, and the way it's painted, it looks very convincing as a separate piece. It's done really well, and fortunately this compares way better to some other examples of failed door tracks where they start getting very thick and chunky. Say for example on the Atlas 60-foot T-boxes, those were extremely disappointing. This is very finely done even though it is a molded on piece. Now me personally, I would have liked to have seen a separately applied piece here. I think it looks a lot more detailed, but this looks acceptable. It does look really nicely detailed, and they did try to do a decent job on it, so I'll let it pass in this case because it does look really nice. On the door, we got the really nice separately applied railings. We have the door handle detail. All the door detail itself is very nicely done. There's a lot of depth here. Now looking at the fine printing and painting, the paint quality is super smooth and clean. The TTX logo graphic, the Nextload AnyRoad X, or the TTX X as I call it, is very nicely done. The colors look very authentic compared to what's on the prototype photo that I have above. The data and everything on the sides is very clean and very crisp. We have the safety stripes on the side as well, though they're a little bit hard to see, but there are safety stripes in each corner. One right here, two on the door, and one in the corner here as well. And again, nice looking trucks. We have some of the brake detailing showing, like the release rod here, and some of the retainer valve detail as well. I really like this pivoting air hose on the end. I also really like the realistic sized coupler box here. I will point out one thing that is a bit of a red flag here. Just like the OVR guns, notice how much play is in this coupler. Rocks up and down. That's unfortunate. That's not something you want to see. So I'm automatically going to say right now, these all probably have low riding couplers. It's a little disappointing, but I got to double check to make sure. I'm just speculating here, but I am a little worried about the fact that that coupler is just kind of wobbling around in that box. So in that sense, probably not the best engineered coupler box. It looks like there's a lot of slack in that box, but we'll take a closer look at that if need be. I just want to point out the details for now. I do really like that separately applied coupler lift bar, and the way it's actually connected to the coupler box. Same thing with the air hose mechanism. That's super nicely done. The photo etch crossover platform looks really nice. I like these separately applied ladders here, and the brake wheel, that's all very finely done. The grab iron looks really nice, and again the printing and the painting looks really nice. The clean separation lines are a nice touch as well. In terms of brake piping, there is a lot of it, so let's get started. On the ends here you can see the brake rods and components, all the nice detailing like we said with the air hose and the coupler lift bar. Running between the tanks here, there's lots of separate piping. It all is very nicely done. It looks like brass or steel wire, I'm not sure. You have the brake components here, all nicely done. Lots of depth in terms of the underbody paneling and the roof, or not the roof, but the floor sheet here. Lots of nicely done brake components as we look at the detailing here. Absolutely fabulous brake detailing. It's exquisite. It's too bad you can't really see it on these kinds of cars unless you're at ground level. But the brake rod detail and all that looks super nice. The trucks look exquisite on this car. We'll have to do some mainline tests to see. It does look like these swivel pretty nicely too. Though it does look like this might not be able to take a sharp radius. As you can see, there's not much swivel that you can get out of these trucks. So it's approaching more of a prototypical allowance in the sense of the main beam of the car meeting the truck and that clearance. So that is something I do need to point out here. If you have really tight curves, this might be an issue. Again, I'll do some track tests here and I'll take it out to the layout and we can test this, but that is something I noticed. It swivels freely, but it is pretty tight in there, so I will say that. But again, focusing on the brake components and all that, it all looks very nicely done. Lots of separately applied parts here. Very nice. Something weird I do want to point out here is that out of the box there's some kind of weird powdery substance, like a dusty substance all over the roof of this car. You can see I can actually brush it off, but it is kind of interesting. I'm not sure what that is, if it's dried paint residue or what it is, but all I have to do here in this case is just simply brush it off. So if you guys get models like these and it has that, just try brushing it off. You could use a little warm soapy water to carefully scrub it off if it's a little bit more sticky, but in this case on my model it came right off. So now that we got all that covered, looking at the roof detail, it's a little flat. I know in real life these have a little bit more depth, so it's a little unfortunate to see some of these patterns a little bit more flat molded on the roof. In real life these are a little bit more raised. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more panel detail on the top of the roof there. It is on the roof, and you know, it's one of those things. Most of the time you're going to be looking at the side of the car, especially if you have nice weathering or graffiti, but the roofs are something I like to have detailed, and it's unfortunate to see some of this flatter detail. I do like the rib paneling there, and I do like those bolt details, and it is pretty nicely painted here, clean separation lines, and it's a nice flat silver. It's not super metallic, which is nice. It's a plus, but I am a little disappointed with the flat roof details here. Okay, so comparing this model with prototype photos, here we have a very nice blown up image of the real 506479. And I always like it when companies model cars that you can actually find real photos of. I hate it when companies choose numbers that aren't on rosters. That's one of those real annoyances, but that's how they get away from, you know, getting scolded if they don't get something right. Anyways, looking at this one, if we zoom out a little bit, I can now take the real model, and if I actually compare some of the details, in terms of the positioning of the logos, I do like the color there. So if we look at the color on the model and the color in the photo, it's pretty damn close. I think the blue is slightly lighter in real life. This is a little dark, but it's still pretty damn close. In terms of graphics, the font seems a little thin to me. I will say that. You guys can kind of look at this in the shot. Obviously not the best. Take a look at the font. Look at the real life car. I think, looking at it, it's damn close, but to my eye, I think the prototype has a slightly thicker graphic. On the model, it looks like a pretty thin angled font, but that's just a slight thing. It's still pretty much right in terms of positioning. The F plate is in the correct position. All the data here that I can see, that's all correct. And if we take a look on this side here, lining all this up, let me double check something here. Okay, so it does appear there is a stencil missing on this side. There should be a stencil right here. On the real car, it's this little guy right here in the corner. Let me zoom in on that. It's a very minute thing. I'm sure you could probably add this with the decal sheet. This guy here, it's not present on the door. It should be right here. So there is a bit of data missing on the door. Looking at the end here, this is where it gets a little tricky because this is a little bit hard to see. But if I look at the end here, the TTX logo is in the correct position. Railcar pooling, all the way down to the folds, that's actually accurate. So they got that right. The data is in the correct position on the end, And little things like the safety stripe placement, the car series there, all that's in the correct position. The only grievance I have is that there's not this little bit of data right there. It's kind of a shame because they put all the effort in putting all the other data there, but they missed that little label. I can't find a photo of the other side, so I have to give them the benefit of the doubt for the opposite side, but for the most part I'm sure this data is pretty much the same. These cars are pretty standardized when it comes to data, other than maybe a few added stickers later on when shippers add little labels and stuff like that, but that's usually after. This is more the as-built look. But so far, in comparison with the photo here, the one photo we do have of this car, everything lines up super well. Next car out of the box is the last TTX car. This is the F-Box 506858. And this car out of the box, no problems, no missing parts. Again, detailing is exquisite. Same issue with the coupler here. Notice there's a lot of play. It rides up and down. So there's probably a little bit of droop here, but we'll take a look at the coupler height a little later. It swivels fine, but the height is the thing I'm worried about here. In terms of detailing and printing and painting, everything looks really good on this car here. It does have the same thing I pointed out earlier. It has some kind of residue on the roof, so I recommend out of the box, if you guys want to prep these for weathering or handle them, I would just go in, take a fine dusting brush like the one I have here, run it on top of the car, and it should take all that dust off. Something else I did just notice just now as I was doing that, there is a little bit of a residue on the roof here. Take a look on here. It almost looks like the paint got bleached. There's some messed up paint here. Just something I want to point out. It's very minute, but it looks like something scuffed the paint when it was still curing. A little annoying. I don't like to see these kinds of imperfections in paint, especially for this price point. You shouldn't see things like that. That being said, on the roof, these obviously get very dirty. I'm going to be painting sealant and putting a little rust and things like that on this. But, you know, out of the box, if you're modeling a new car or something, this is something that could be an eyesore, because right away as you look at that, you notice it. You can see that little scuff. So that's a little disappointing, but it is something I need to point out for this car. Other than that, out of the box, the car looks absolutely fabulous. The detailing is exquisite. The paint quality looks great, other than that little scuff on the roof. Unfortunately, I couldn't find prototype photos of 506858. I did find a picture of a brother car, I believe the 6857. However, the car is completely covered in graffiti and most of the data is illegible at this point. So we're not going to be able to use that as a proper comparison. So I found another car in the same range and the same build date. It has all the similar data, so we'll use this guy here as comparison. But there might be some slight differences. I'm just not sure. But most of these cars, as built, they all pretty much have the same data and labeling. If there are minute changes, they're very small. So this one should suffice for the review. Now, if we take this guy and compare it with the data, on the sides here, the logo again looks good. All the positioning of the lettering, comparing that with what's on the model here, it all looks pretty good. On the F-Box there, 506865 number, it appears to be at the correct height on the model. The F-plate decal there is correct. Safety stripe placement, all positioned correctly there. That all lines up really well. All the end data here is correct. Again, there's no stencil here. There should be a stencil right here on the door. The prototype car has it. The model does not. So that must be something that a lot of these probably don't have. The models anyways, but the prototypes do. A little disappointing, but it's a very small piece of data, and if you really cared that much about it, you could just redecal that on. In my case, with that small bit of data, I do have a couple data sheets for these kinds of cars, so I will see if I can find that bit of data and I'll try to redecal that onto this. But that is a small thing, but I really do wish if they're going to go in with all this detail on the sides that they'd get everything. And that's the stencil so far both these cars are missing. And I wouldn't be surprised if the entire series of these TTX cars are missing those little stencils. It's a little disappointing. I will again give them props though. I do like the script that is on the car. I do like the fact that they got the orange label. That's a lot of that's one of those labels you do see often missed on basically recreations of these cars. No manufacturer has gotten that right. Aurora actually got that right. So In comparison with the data to the car that we do have here, it does line up really well, and it looks pretty accurate. Okay guys, the third and final car to review here is UCRY 15915, and the reason I picked the UCRY out of the other roads offered is because these are the most common versions I see on CSX in Norfolk Southern, around here in my area. Modeling Fostoria, Ohio in particular, these are the cars I see most often, so I chose one of these. But I will go back and get some other roads later on, as I said, but this is what I have to review for today. One thing I should note, my camera's making this look very much more of like a reddish tint. It's a very subtle brown, darker brown, more of that modern boxcar brown you see. So I think the color is a lot more authentic, but that's just something I needed to point out so you guys aren't fooled here. In terms of quality, no missing parts, anything damaged out of the box, everything's intact. Super nice detailing again. We have all the separately applied detailing on the ends. Same problem with the coupler. We'll talk about that in a second, I promise. On the sides, exquisite printing and painting. You got all the very, very nice fine detailing. The door track, all the nice lettering, all the separately applied stirrup steps and ladders here. All the door track detail, all the door railings, all look very, very nice, very finely detailed, and again, the paint quality is exquisite. If we look at the roof here, same issue as before, a little bit of paint or dust residue, I'm not sure what it is, but it's on the top of that roof there. I'll have to clean it off, but this one doesn't have any paint smudges as I can see. It's pretty clean. And then on the opposite side of the car, more of the same, very nice detailing. Painting and printing looks good. This is a very nice modern paint scheme, and it just stands out especially nice because you have these really clean blue bearing caps. So when I weather this car, I'll keep it relatively clean, but it's one of those nice features I like with the blue bearings and a fresh paint job like this. It just looks super cool. So again, I was not able to find photos of the exact prototype car, but I did find a sister car here. This is the 15910, and as you can see, as of 2019, this is fresh paint. It's still relatively clean, there's no graffiti, and we'll use this to compare and line up all the data. Pretty much all these cars, like I said before, they share the same data. There might be some subtle differences, but for the most part, from the factory, these all are very standardized. So we'll use this as a comparison. Now, if we bring the model in and have it on the correct side here, we can compare the detailing. Looking at the UCRY font here, it does look pretty good. The number series looks correct. Everything looks like it's sized correctly. The data is in the correct location. All the lift here, jack labels and things like that are all correct. The excess height decals, very minor gripe here. These look like they might be a little bit smaller on the model compared to the prototype. The prototype appears to have a larger label. That's a minor thing, but something I feel like I should point out. On the door here, we have all the data this time. They actually got that little stencil correct. A little bit more minimal labeling on the top here, on the side. Safety stripe placement is correct. All the data here appears to be in the correct location. As you can see, safety stripe placement looks good. We have the retainer valve, or the retainer rod, in the correct position. The paint appears to match very closely with what's on the prototype as well. Something I should point out. Obviously the lighting affects it here a little bit. I'm trying to show a model in relatively crappy lighting, and then here we have a nice sunlit real-life car. But it's pretty close, I have to say. And with weathering and everything like that, this will blend really nicely into the model rear, I would say. So everything looks pretty good out of the box. I have no complaints here. So now let's talk about the coupler height. I did compare all these cars in a height gauge, and all of them did fail, but that's simply because the coupler is just sort of laying there. It droops down or it's sticking straight up. There's no in between. It's just kind of floating in this coupler box, which is unfortunate because I believe this box is proto scale, but you can see the coupler's just moving around way too much in that box. There's too much up and down motion there. I can tolerate a little bit of that, but this is pretty extreme, as you can see. So like I said, they all failed the height test, meaning these might cause some issues. I am going to run these on the layout, and we'll test the performance and everything in a second. I'll see how these couplers work together. might not be much of an issue since I'm using all three of these, but with other rolling stock that are using scale size KD couplers, for example, it might be an issue. So all this being said, I will be changing these couplers out, but what I am thinking about doing is trying to do a fix video for the coupler height here. One way I would say you can fix this if you just want to keep the original couplers is to use styrene shims. This method is a tried and true method, and it works on many different cars. But in this case, two shims might be needed. One on the very top inside portion of the coupler box, and one on the bottom portion of the coupler box to actually properly align the coupler. What you would need to do is put the car on the track, use maybe 0.10 inch or 0.5 inch shims to get the right adjustment, and then test it again with the height gauge, paint everything in, and it should fix the problem. However, out of the box and for this price point, this is sort of an issue. I kind of wish this would have been rectified before these cars were sent out, and I would imagine that all these cars have this issue with these couplers. So honestly, that's the biggest issue I have with these cars looking at them. So far I've done a couple laps with these cars around the layout, and even doing some test shots out here for the beginning of the video. So far so good. They're actually taking the curves pretty well. I haven't had any issues with the couplers so far. That being said, they still might pose an issue. That's why I brought it up. But you can see everything's running pretty smooth. We'll just let it kind of naturally run through this little section of track and hope we don't run into the dead spot here. There's a little spot that I gotta fix over here. It's right in there, so I got to repair that, but other than that, going through this whole section, everything seems pretty good. I'm not having any issues with the roller bearings either. The trucks perform super well. It's another thing you got to watch, especially with the spinning bearings on these trucks. Sometimes they can catch on certain models. I'm not having any issues with these whatsoever. They're performing super well. And they look really nice out here on the layout. They'll of course look much better once they're all covered in graffiti, properly weathered. They'll look really nice out here. Okay, so that's going to wrap up this product review, guys. I hope you liked it. Definitely want to look at those issues, as I've pointed out in this video, to make your best judgment here on your purchase. I definitely still would say, if you want them, get them. I have a feeling they're still going to sell out relatively quickly. I'm glad I got the ones I did, and I'm definitely going to be trying to do a weathering video or maybe a graffiti video on these as I get to them. I'm not going to be jumping into a project like this right away just because I have a lot of other stuff, but down the road we'll try to do a weathering video on one of these Aurora cars, and we'll see how they weather up. So thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for watching this product review. I'll be filming some more coming up soon as some other products come. I'll be doing some more how-tos. I now have a couple of how-tos I'm still working on, some more updates coming, and a couple build videos as well coming up soon. Subscribe here on YouTube for more content. Follow my work on Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram page is Danny Dankinson. That is all lowercase. You guys can follow me there to see what kind of models I'm working on and all kinds of little updates that I post there. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take it easy. Hey, guys. So quick edit here. I decided I'm going to make a how-to on how to actually correct the coupler height on these cars, and I'm going to post a video following this review on how to actually adjust it, add shims, and even change the couplers out on these cars if need be. I just feel bad leaving the video off to where it ended here with the coupler height being the obvious issue on these cars. I don't want that to be the discouraging feature of why you shouldn't buy these cars. They're still very nice cars, and it is something you can fix, and it's not that hard. So I'll come back with a video on how to actually fix them right after this one, so you guys can stay tuned for that. Like I said, give me 1 or 2 days to finish editing, and I should have that up. So thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.